What's going on, guys? Jerry Neutron here, back with a brand new video. Today we're going to take a look at Google's newest flagship device, the Nexus 6P. So I've gotten a chance to use this device for a little over a week now, and I think it's about time I give you guys a review. So let you know the good and the bad about the 6P and just cover the important stuff that you need to know before considering purchasing this device. The first thing I do want to mention is this is a large device. So if you're not a fan of big phones, this is not for you. I used to be one of those people, but after using a larger device, I just can't go back. I mean, as long as it fits in my pocket, I'm good. This thing has a massive 5.7-inch display, 2560 by 1440 resolution, 518 pixels per inch, and put that together with an AMOLED display and you have one crispy screen. The colors are accurate, the viewing angles are good, it gets nice and bright, it's easy to see outdoors. Now I will say it's not the quote-unquote prettiest display out there at the moment, but it's still very good in its own right. And if you're concerned about battery life, I can tell you now, not really that big of a deal. I got just over 4 hours of on-screen time with the display at max brightness, and when you factor in standby time, I can sometimes go a day and a half without charging the device. One good thing about this phone though is that it does support fast charging, so in the event that you do need to charge the 6P, it isn't going to be on the charger for long. Personally, I hope fast charging makes its way to every single device going forward. It's really a must-have feature for me. Now, let's talk about build quality, because that's one of my favorite parts about the 6P. It has an aluminum-based frame, and man, you can just feel the quality in your hand. It's sort of heavy, and it really just gives that perception of quality, of a premium device. You feel like you're getting your money's worth when you hold this phone in your hand, and that's just awesome. And if we flip the Nexus over, you can see there's a fingerprint sensor on the back. Google refers to this as Nexus Imprint, and you can use it to unlock your device, use Android Pay, things like that. It's pretty simple to set up. You just place different parts of your finger on the sensor, the phone will record it, ask you to set up a secondary authentication method, and you're good to go. It's the first time I've used something like this, and I think it's pretty cool overall. Now, let's move on to the camera, because I know that's what most people want to know about. So, the Nexus 6P has a 12 megapixel rear-facing camera with an f2.0 aperture, and the hardware that they've put into this phone has resulted in it taking pretty good photos. Just shooting in the auto mode rarely resulted in an overexposed picture. The focus is fast, you don't get any over sharpening that the other flagship devices offer. I did notice that in certain situations, the camera will tend to oversaturate the colors, but it wasn't in a negative way. I still felt the photos were visually appealing. With that said, I still do prefer the G4 camera in terms of overall quality, but you definitely won't be disappointed in what this camera has to offer. Aside from good photos, you can shoot up to 4K video at 30 FPS. It also offers slow motion modes, which shoot at 120 or 240 frames per second at 720p. And being a video guy, this is more my cup of tea. I like capturing things in slow motion. So yeah, overall, this is a pretty solid camera. Not the best camera, but it's pretty good. Software-wise, the 6P is running Android 6.0 Marshmallow, and since this is a Nexus device, you get that pure Android experience, so no custom launchers or menus, just exactly how Google intended it to be. And thanks to the Snapdragon 810 version 2.1 processor and 3 gigs of RAM, the phone is nice and snappy. I had no problems with performance whatsoever. Oh, and also no overheating issues due to the processor. I know some of you guys were probably gonna ask that. Let's just quickly talk about some of my dislikes, or rather things that need improvement, I guess you could say. The first being the dual front-facing speakers. These things do get pretty loud, but coming from the boom sound hype, I do have to admit I was expecting something just a little better in terms of clarity. I didn't like the fact that there seemed to be a little distortion at max volume, so I would like to see Google improve that going forward. They aren't terrible speakers by any means, but I don't know, I was just expecting better. And the last thing being that this is a closed device, meaning there's no expandable storage and no replaceable battery. Now, I know this is a Nexus device, but if we're gonna give guys like Samsung crap for doing this, it's only fair to mention Google as well. The battery's not a huge deal to me, but I know a lot of guys out there enjoy their expandable storage, and that's just not an option here. So plan accordingly and make sure that when you're deciding between the 32, 64, and 128 gig models, give yourself a little room to grow. So with all of that said, what's the verdict on this device? Well, I'll say this. Across the board, this is a pretty damn good device. It does a lot of things well. I wouldn't say it's the king of current flagship devices, but when you consider the fact that you can get a 64 gigabyte model for just $549, it really makes this a no-brainer. If I had to purchase a device today, this would be it. So that's about it, guys. Let me know what you think about the 6P down in the comments below, and if you plan to pick one up. Like this video if you found it helpful or entertaining. Subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, see ya. I started with the budget system, and now I've kind of gone to this sort of high-endish Z97 build, so I've been documenting it along the way.